Hello everybody and welcome back to Arma 3 mission making in 15 minutes or less, and today we're going to be talking about props and their attributes. As a separate tutorial from the last one, you would have seen the objects and how to become entities. We're now going to go through specifically the prop structure, and the reason why we're doing it separately is because generally these things aren't moving. You know, these are, as you open up any kind of map, you've got a bunch of props that are baked into the landscape. But you might want to change it. You might want to add some more things in. I don't know. We want another industrial shed next to the road, for example. So if we go into our props, we can find I'm pretty sure it's an industrial shed. Structures, industrial shed, big, that one. And there we go. We have a duplicate of this guy over here. So, and you can see it then drops into the empty. Here's our industrial shed. Well, why is it a separate tutorial, I hear you cry? Because there's a bunch of different things that you're going to want to do with it, not least of which is messing around with some of the widgets up here to make it look as it should do. Because if we look at it now, it looks really odd, right? This floor is buried. There's a door kind of buried in the floor. It's all gone horribly wrong there and looks wrong over here. And in fact, I wouldn't position this here because there's no way that I can make this look right. But we'll talk about that and the reasons why. So, how to do stuff and how to manipulate things. Well, if I press on this industrial shed here and hold down the shift key, then left click, and I can rotate it round by moving my mouse. And that's one aspect of manipulation. I can also, by holding the alt key, I can drag it up and down and do stuff and things. So I can turn it out of the ground, if you will. Now I can rotate this. So if I go up to my rotation widget here, number 3, and we can make some rotations. This is where you're looking at that difference, if you remember from the user interface, where we're looking at coordinate space or object space. So coordinate space is to do with the map, but if I rotate it now, you see it's on some weird kinky angle. God knows what it's doing there. It doesn't really help me do what I wanted to do. Whereas if I change it to the object space, it's now easier for me to manipulate more accurately. So I could make it more wonky, means the door. Let's raise it slightly. Find control. Means now the door is no longer in the ground. Oh, there's a bit of ground in there. We'd have to go up a bit more. So there's no longer in the ground, but it is also wonky as hell. And I can't imagine you'd build a warehouse that was... Maybe you do. Maybe the like ones that roll down the thing. No idea. But anyway, the important point is to note that you can rotate, you can move up and down in the terrain, you can adjust to make it fit, but there are limitations to it. You would expect something like this to snap to the surface and kind of come up, be running horizontal with a ramp up. So if I grab this guy here with the alt key again and drag it down, it then snaps to the surface, and you can see the change in the indicator where it's that arrow, circle and arrow. When it snaps to a surface, you get those two lines come out from the side, so you know that it's snapped to a surface. That's what they're there for. What else are we looking at? So that's just essentially placing them down, rotating and getting them into a position. You'll also notice that I can just essentially chuck it over a piece of the landscape. So I've now got some weird telegraph pole feature. Arma's not going to take note of the fact that there's a telegraph pole in the middle of this building. Physics kind of react to it. It will do weird things if you do that. So you have to be aware of when you're adding these objects in, what it is you're trying to achieve with them and why, and what the limitations are. And having them essentially trees, and as we saw here, trees and grass coming through your props, it's just going to not make for a realistic immersive experience. If anything, it detracts. You may as well not have had it there in the first place. So dragging the objects in, placing them down, you've got to think about the environment in which you're putting them and whether or not it fits. Other things to think about, other things you're going to look at. Double clicking on it gets you into the attributes. You can also get in there by right clicking on it and going to attributes, or indeed you can go over into your entities and find it and right click and go attributes here. And then we can change stuff. Again, you can change the type. I want it now to be one of those big sheds, and it will do that. We'll stick with our small, whoopsie. Go back to this one. By the way, Control and Z does undo. Or you can go into your history tab and jump in there. Back in here. You can assign it a variable name, again, to do stuff if you want to do something specific to that shed. A bit more important now is going to be position and rotation. If you're trying to create a FOB, for example, a forward operating base, using HESCO, is it HESCO or is it H barrier? Let's go H barrier, long green. That one will do. You've got these 4 things, and you want these to be a nice wall. If you press Control and C and Control and V, then you can cut and paste. Awesome stuff. Put these dudes together. So you want to make a nice square wall. Then you can take this, go to Attributes, and then you want the rotation to be all the same for all of them. So you can adjust all of them. And now they look weird. But let's say I've got my 3 guys here. 1, 2, 3. Press Control and V. Go into the attributes. And then my rotation for these guys is going to be 0. So now they're all facing opposite. And you can make a nice... these guys here. Check on there. This rotation is going to be 90. That allows you to slot them in at the end, and you get the general idea. So you can get those things where you want to make a square-shaped fob. You can rotate them through those coordinates, and it will achieve that for you with accuracy, whereas trying to do it by hand and getting those 4 things in together is a little bit of a lick out, I'm not going to lie. What else are we looking at? Let's go back into our little attributes menu. Scale, not so important with this. If I scale this up, there is a mod that messes with it, and you can see here... I now have a huge... Oh, it's gone. I now have a huge barn, which looks stupid. But you can scale up the some of the objects. Not all of them, but a lot of them you can in the props. I never do, but it is funny just to demonstrate, and the capability is there. You can mess around with these things with the health and the armor, so it can be a damage building. It doesn't really show anything, but when you get into game, if it's destructible, you can blow it up a bit easier. Let's go back into this one here and put the health up. Things that you might want to mess around with. Let's put that one there, and let's put H barrier down again, the weird green stuff. So every object that you place down, or every object that already exists into the map, is having physics acting upon it and draining your CPU. So that you can open this door, for example, on this shed here. And all of these do. So adding more in there drains more in the CPU. One of the ways around that, if I right click on this one, go into attributes, is to disable simulation, so uncheck that, and disable damage, uncheck that. You can see there I've got this little red indicator here which tells me that it's had its simulation disabled and the damage disabled. What that means is that you can't blow up the HESCO or damage it in any way, but it essentially then becomes an object baked into the map. It's not going to react to anything that's going on around it. You can do the same for this industrial shed here. If I disable simulation, disable damage, goes nice and red. What that also means is I can't mess around with the doors. So it might be just I enable simulation so I can do stuff with the doors. Or, fun things, you can change the door states on each door. So this one's going to be locked. This one's going to be open. This one's going to be locked. Open. Open. We'll open a lot of them apart from the ones that are locked. So we do that. And now that I've made these adjustments and I go onto it, you can see it indicates which doors are which. So this one's locked, and the rest of them are all open now. And that's all under the attributes menu. What else is there? Oh, you can have this as an arsenal. So for Ace Arsenal, you can interact with it. Or if I get, I don't know, let's find an ammo crate. If I could spell ammo correctly, that would help. Ace Chem Lights. So we've got a little box down here. We can right click on that, attributes, and then go into equipment storage, and you can start adding different things into that container. So let's clear what's in there at the moment. And you can add weapons and ammunition for the different weapon types, so assault rifles, machine guns, sniper rifles, launchers, pistols, and grenades. Weird one, so if you go into optics, it's not just optics, it's loads of miscellaneous random stuff. If you'll see on the loadout tutorial, under the miscellaneous tabs, you'll also find what you find under the miscellaneous tabs in the normal loadouts, see that tutorial, you will find those things under the optics tab in equipment storage. I don't know why that's the case. Maybe they ran out of space for the little dudes along here, but that's where you're going to find it. So for example, if you want earplugs, it is under the optics. Uniform is just all your clothes, weapons and vests, backpacks, helmets, binos, etc. So, and you also find other stuff under binos. Sorry, yes. So similar to ways with the optics, under the binos you're going to find your terminals, which is GPS, and I believe your radios as well. Yeah, there's your radios as well. So a bunch of extra stuff, not particularly helpful that they're not under the same tabs, but c'est la vie. The important point to note is that you can put down ammo crates and add stuff to it. And a bunch of objects, you can add other things, but for example, if I go into the HESCO and scroll down to equipment storage, there's nothing. I can just add an arsenal to it. That's about it. Other things that you can do and other things that you can change. Let's put down... So this is going to be ACE functionality as opposed to vanilla functionality, but again, go to the mods tutorial. I wouldn't play Arma 3 without the mods, and ACE is one of the ones that I definitely wouldn't play without. So we'll talk about it here. Let's say you want to have a refuel capability or a rearm capability or a repair capability. You can go into ACE options here and change it. If you look under the tooltips, it tells you a bit of information. You might want to go onto the ACE wiki site to find this. See a link in the description below. But for cargo is done by the weight of the munition. So if you've got a 7.62, takes up more. Say I've got 1,000 units of munitions or cargo. 7.62 will give me less rounds than 5.56 because 7.62 weighs more, for example. But the fuel I tend to put on -10 because who cares? The point is you can make some adjustments in there. Okay. So that's basically it, guys. That's all we're going to cover in props. Let's close that one down. What we've looked at today is the fact that you have the props menu, bringing them into the Eden editor themselves. We've gone through some of the troubleshooting stuff and the limitations of bringing things into the editor, getting them to look right within the environment, how you can kind of do that, but what the limitations are. And then we've talked about manipulating all of the different, or many, not all of, many of the different attributes to allow them to do what we want the prop to do. Again, support our mission making activities. As always, the real way to learn this, guys, is to get in game and experiment with it. If you go down the left hand side, sorry, on the right hand side here, there are a whole bunch of different things that you can start putting in to your mission. Let's drop a backpack in, for example. This search bar is a godsend. The props that you can throw in there, though, allows you to really make and bring the mission to life. As you go further down the mission making series, you'll see us using it more and more and more just to shape the environment to look the way that we want it to look, so that the game plays the way we want it to play. As ever, any questions, reach out to me in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. And if not, I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for your time.